You could do an American accent? Okay.
Then wait, you do yours first, your British one.
You look absolutely smashing. I love this outfit,
Babe,
darling.
oh my God, you look so good. You look so cool. I love that. That's so cute.
That's really good. That's good.
Like Valley Girl or something.
That's good,
Or sorry,
LA.
Valley Girl.
This week on Between You and Me, I sit down with my friend Phoebe Robinson, the comedian and best-selling author who shot to fame with her podcast turned HBO series, Two Dope Queens. After a decade of hustling in the comedy world, she recently locked down a multi-year deal with ABC Studios and is on her first solo stand-up tour. Sorry, Harriet Tubman.
One marker.
Does it piss you off when people sort of treat it like an overnight success?
I think it's sort of like, they do that with everyone because it's like you only discover someone when you discover them. So they're just like, oh, you're on HBO, like that's cool. So you've always been doing that. It's like, no. I've been doing comedy for 11 years and most of the time it was like, stand up in biker bars or like, I used to take like the dollar bus, like mega bus. I would go on their website, see when it was like $1 and take the bus to Boston, sleep on someone's couch for a weekend and do stand up and then take the bus back to New York. So there's a lot of like paying my dues to get to this point. So I think people are like excited, but I'm like, the real truth is it was a lot of just struggle.
You just signed a major deal with ABC Studios. Major congrats. It's
Thank
huge.
you. Because it was sort of unexpected. It was coming out of like Two Dope Queens and I was like, all right, I have the tour. This year will be chill. LOL. And then ABC Studios was like, hey, have you ever thought about like running your own production company? I was like, yes, like later in life. But then I was like, well, maybe now is the time to just like sort of dive right in. And I think what's great about it is they really get my sensibility and they really want me to bring that to them and really do shows for me to star in and for other like women, queer people, people of color to star in. So it really feels like, okay, people get me and they know what I'm gonna bring to the table.
Wow, you've always been a boss bitch. You've always been a boss queen. But now you're actually like the boss. Like, what have you been learning? Like, what tips do you have for aspiring bosses?
I feel like everyone's like, yes, you're a boss, but no one talks about overhead. Like, that's the thing I have to think about. Like, I had to like look up insurance packages for like my employees. I'm like, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's just like these things you don't think about that are like more logistical and like you want to make sure you're taking care of people. And I think people think like when I'm the boss, I'm in charge, everyone works for me. And I kind of feel like it's the opposite. Like it's sort of like you want to make sure everyone's happy. So you want to check in with like your assist, you want to check in with hair and makeup and make sure that like you're giving them the tools that they need to like execute their jobs better. So I feel like we sort of like work together. There's no like, there's not a true, I mean, there is a hierarchy because I like write the checks, but it's really.
Do you literally write the checks? Do you get like, I can imagine you in a dusty ledger with like a quill and ink. Ooh, okay.
Phoebe Robinson, no. It's all like, direct deposit.
You just Venmo them.
Yeah.
It's nice. Efficient.
It's so efficient. I feel like I really like to collaborate and work with people and not feel like they can't. Like I've worked in offices where it's like you can't look the exec in the eye when they're walking down the hallway, like all this kind of crazy stuff. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm the same person as you. Like I fart, I burp, I oversleep, I have drool on my face. Like there is none of that sort of like, I'm better than you vibe. I don't like that. Yeah, Jessica Williams, my lovely co-host for Two Dope Queens, we always used to joke that, while we talked a lot about like social issues, political issues in the podcast, we'd also be like, oh, I want to smash like this hot celeb, which is very ignorant. And we always say like our podcast is just like letting down like different Black historical figures. And I joke that I think Harriet Tubman would be the most disappointed. Like, I led the Underground Railroad for this. Cool, love it. So I was like, I think that would be really funny for the tour to just sort of be like, I'm gonna be silly, I'm gonna be a little ignorant, I'm apologizing to Harriet, but I'm still gonna do me.
What I find so smart about your work is that you play into this idea of ignorance to kind of satirize it, essentially. Like, do people always get it though?
I think what was interesting when Jess and I started Two Dope Queens as a podcast, I think people sort of had to get used to hearing just two Black women talk to each other, hang out, be silly and goofy. Because I think in a pop culture, there's a lot of like, you're the strong Black woman, or like you're the extra sassy sort of person. It's like Jess and I are a little bit more dorky, I would say. And I think at first people were kind of like, we don't know how I guess, not people, but like maybe mostly white dudes would be like,
Yeah.
you guys sound different. This is weird. I wish you like talked a little bit differently. So I think there was a little bit of pushback.
Because there's sort of been a coding in our culture about what a black person sounds like, and especially what a black woman sounds like.
Exactly. And it'd be like, you guys talk about race too much, which I feel like Jess and I, A, didn't, and B, like us not being able to hail a cab in New York is stuff we've gone through multiple times while taping the podcast. So of course we're gonna talk about that. We change our hair all the time. Of course we're gonna talk about that. So for us, we didn't feel like we talked about the black experience too much. We were just talking about our lives. And so for Jess and I on the show, we wanted to always be the most truthful we can about our lives and encourage everyone who come on the show. Like if you are queer, just talk about it for 10 minutes. Who the hell cares? Like straight people talk. We talk about our lives so much. All the time.
So boring. You did 5 shows with Michelle Obama as part of her book tour, Becoming, which is, I mean, first of all, amazing. Like, how was that experience? And did you talk about any of these like weighty issues with her?
I just want to say, we would do arenas where it's like 15,000 people were coming to listen to someone talk about a book. That will never happen again, probably.
Yeah.
Let alone like 2 black women on stage talking about a book. Like that's so exciting. And I think she's so open and honest. What was really great is that we would have conversations about like how we need to, you know, of course, like support women, but we also need to talk about like how we need to rethink what masculinity is and how forcing guys to be like, you have to be like the star athlete, or you have to be like the breadwinner, or you have to be like the cool guy with the suits, and those are your only 3 options. How that's very limiting for men, and how it's hurting a lot of men because they feel like, well, I don't measure up if I'm not this, if I'm not like ripped, or if I don't have like a lot of money, then am I a man?
You wrote a book called Everything's Trash, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Is it okay, Phoebe? Is it okay? Or is it just trash, hot garbage?
I think it's just trash, and like maybe we'll figure it out, which is not as great of a title. But I do think right now we're in such a negative space, and I think a lot of times people will be like, oh, we're all the same, so why talk about our differences? And it's like, well, because we are treated differently, and the only way to move past it is to confront it and then be like, okay, let's acknowledge it and then now find solutions. I think having the Obamas in office, you know, for me, certainly I was like, oh, everything is changing. Yes, there's a lot of racism directed towards them, but it felt like really positive and kind and wonderful. And I think I was like, oh yeah, we're solving things. And now it feels like, oh, we were a little too complacent because we thought everything was sort of fixed, and it's not.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any hope for any of the current Democratic candidates? Like, is there anyone that you're like, that's the person, that's my one, they're gonna do it?
Girl, it's
No.
like 80 people are running. I'm like, if one more white guy is like, I'm throwing my hat in the ring, I'm like, bitch, get that ring out of here. We're done. We are full.
You're just gonna get rid of the ring.
Yeah.
You're like, the ring, it ain't happening, we're done.
Yeah.
Canada is so close. Or England, because you now have British Bake Off.
I know, my lovely boyfriend, he's like, it's a mess everywhere. So I think I'm really excited. I will say this, when I watched the Democratic debate, I really liked Kamala Harris. I thought she did a wonderful job. And so I feel like there are people there, but I just think we have to, I don't even know if like the election process, the way that we do it, is even sort of the right way to go about it, because you do these debates and it's like you get maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of sound bites, but you're like, I don't know how that's gonna translate to doing such a difficult job for 4, maybe 8 years, but how else do you elect a president? I don't know, you know?
Obviously now you've got like a mentor / running mate in Michelle Obama.
Should we run?
Do you want to do it? I mean, would
We
you?
are throwing our Nuva
You're like,
ring into the ring. Just kidding. Michelle's like, what?
You are talking about real serious issues like race, and I'm just curious as to how you think it translates, because obviously the UK, I mean, we have our own crap to deal with when it comes to like race relations. It feels, there's overlap, but it feels kind of distinct as well.
Yeah, I think it's much more overt here in America, but I think what's interesting going to the UK is like, I was talking to Bake Off about it. I was like, you guys kind of act like racism isn't really a thing and it's just really an American thing. I'm like, but it exists there too. He's like, oh yeah, it's awful there too. So I think it'll be interesting to see how people react to it, even though they like may not like have lived the American Black experience, the Black American experience. I think it will still be universal to
Do you
them.
feel the racism when you go there?
I do get stared at a lot. But I'm also kind of like, I get stared at here, so it doesn't, I'm just sort of like, it doesn't matter where I go. But he's originally from Bournemouth, which is like 2 hours south, and there are no people of color there. So that's where, and I had like giant braids when I went, so there was a lot of people like, oh my God, your hair, it's so cool. And
Were they touching your hair?
Yeah.
Wait, you wrote a whole book?
I know,
Did
it didn't get to Bournemouth.
Did you just not take the book? You should just like had Bake Off hold a like billboard sign that just had the cover of the book.
I know.
Bless them.
But it was like they were just really cute because they're like they've never seen just big braids like that before. So they're like, oh, it wasn't like a rude thing. So I didn't mind as much. I was still like, don't touch my hair. But it was like really cute old ladies being like, you look beautiful. And I'm like, all right, I'll take it.
You're like, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'll take that. That's good. You're the best. I love you.
You're
Thank
the
you for
best.
coming.
I love you.
Thank you for watching Between You and Me. There are plenty more episodes, so you can click here and subscribe to watch more.